Well, good morning everybody. Today I'm going to talk about balance and equilibrium. Now, balance is a very important function to maintain as we get older. And many people have already lost a lot of balance because maybe they haven't done too much except just running in straight lines or swimming in straight lines, or maybe not even doing much at all and sitting around. So, there's a couple of things to know about balance and equilibrium. Equilibrium is a deeper part of what we might call a balance mechanism, but it really is just about an automatic response that keeps us physically safe. So for example, if I stand on one leg and things start to happen like that, I put my foot out. It's the foot going out that is really the equilibrium reaction in this process. There's a lot of things going on here in the body and the leg as I'm trying to keep my balance, and that's part of the balance and equilibrium responses. So there's some automatic responses in there that just keep us moving a little bit to maintain whatever is the posture that we'd like to maintain. Now, in terms of balance, there's two types of balance. There's what is known as a static balance, which is like when you're trying to stand on one leg. And there's a more dynamic balance, which occurs when you're walking or running or dancing. So, what I'm going to do today is not unpack that in too much more detail. However, just to go through some ways you might think of training in balance. So no matter how good or bad your balance is, and today we're going to presume it's at the lower end, you can always train up your balance. Now, it also doesn't matter how old you are, but it kind of depends on where your starting point can be. So today I'm going to presume that we can move around fairly freely. So here's the things that I'm going to suggest to you. At the lower end of any training, we want to be able to find a place that we can do something with a little difficulty, but not too much difficulty. So for example, if I knew that really every time I tried to stand on one leg I would just sort of fall over, then trying to stand on one leg as the way to train the balance may not be the best idea. It might really just be a little too difficult, as well as it might be unsafe. However, what you can do is move that body weight. So in balance, a lot of it is about moving the body weight over a particular point. We're going to deal, as we go through this, the influence of the vestibular system in balance. And I'll unpack some other parts of the system as well. So if I'm standing up tall, there's a certain way the vestibular system is working okay. And by vestibular system, I mean we have semicircular canals inside our ears, and there are three of them, and they're spaced in different ways. There's a vertical, there's a horizontal, and there's one at an oblique angle. Now, inside of these semicircular canals are millions of fine hair-like nerve fibers, and they're coated with a form of kind of a viscous liquid. Now, what that means is that when we move, the liquid moves inside the canals in a certain way. And as the liquid moves in a certain way in the canals, it runs across the hair-like nerve fibers, much as you might see a light breeze running across a field of wheat. The field of wheat will bend and the nerve fibers will send messages to our brain. And what that's doing is just saying, oh, it's moving. We're moving like this, and now we're moving like that. And because you've got different angles of pickup, those angles can tell you where the coordinates are in space of those movements. So where you are horizontally in space, where you are vertically in space, and where you are obliquely when you put them together, where you are in space when you're turning around, rotating, getting up and down, going side to side, bending down, coming up. Now, the other parts of the balance system include what is called the proprioceptive system. The proprioceptive system are nerves that are in our ligaments and muscles, and they are firing off when there's a little bit of stretch going on inside those ligaments and muscles. So if I move this way, some of my ligaments and muscles are off stretch and some have just come on a little stretch. And that coming on a little bit of stretch fires certain nerves off, goes up through the spinal cord to my brain. And even at the spinal cord level, there is some talking back to muscles of what to do next. So again, when I stand on one foot, that talking back and forth, even at that low level, helps me to readjust. But that's also a lot of feedback going to the cerebellum at the back of my brain and giving me feedback to the muscular system. Now, the other important mechanism in balance are our eyes. Now, our eyes are giving us constant feedback, as you'd be aware, of the environment, the space we're in. It gives us some very particular types of information that is important for balance. It tells us where the horizon is, or where the horizontal is. It tells us that we are upright compared to other things. We can compare what we're seeing with our other systems, our vestibular and proprioceptive systems, and that adds up to giving us a little extra balance support in life. This is why when people then close their eyes and take that out, that lack of cueing in what's straight in the world helps to perturb the balance a lot more. We now have to rely on only 2 out of 3 of the important sensory systems that help us with our balance. However, it can be important when you want to optimize your balance training to actually take the eyes out of the system. But we won't do that at the start. Now that you know a little bit about that, we'll go back to where training might occur. So training might occur if, for example, we want to just get a little better at standing on one leg. A training might occur with just moving the body weight and lifting it up here. Now, if we're already in the vertical and we're comfortable with that, our vestibular systems are going to be pretty happy, most likely, with that little bit of sideways shift. If we're not really making it hard on our whole body to hold that position, our proprioceptive systems are going to probably be a bit pretty happy. However, if you find that even that gives you a bit of the wobbles, and so it's a little difficult, that's definitely where you should work at. Now, when I do this, what I've got is I've got, say, 3/4 of my weight on this leg and 1/4 on through that foot. And I can actually practice shifting the body weight from side to side. Is keep the knee off full lock when you're doing this. Just make the muscles do the work and hold you there. Again, it gives you a lot more proprioceptive input from the muscles that are working, stretching, and what the ligaments are doing. But it also means that you're in much more control of the balance and the movement itself. So you can just spend a little time, and what I'd suggest is you might go 10 seconds like this, and hold 10 seconds. And 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 5, and 6, and 7, and 8, and 9, and 10. And the same. Great. Now, I'm going to do a whole series of balance types of training that is going to build up from these lower levels of training to quite difficult exercises. And in the end, I'll be showing you training that I find quite difficult to do. So try these exercises out, even if they're easy for you. Get a feel for how the body is when you're doing these easier exercises. And if you're finding them difficult anyhow, just stay with them for a while. Even with these shifts of weight, you do 6 or 10, say, repetitions on each side of each exercise, most days a week. Then you will find within a month, this is going to go to another place. So I'm going to show you a couple more versions of that. Now, another version is a lunge version. Now, it's a little bit trickier because you're going to have to use a little bit more muscle power. You get the benefits of increasing some muscle power in your legs as well. So I'm going to show you that from the side arm because that can be sometimes more helpful. I'm going to pull one leg forward, and the front leg you're going to lunge on it. And when I say lunge on it, you're going to bend the knee just far enough so that if you look down over the vertical, your kneecap would be sitting over the tips of your second, third, fourth toe. And if you're somebody, and you want to check this out, because many people mainly because maybe they've got a bit of flat feet, will tend to roll in at that point, and the knee will actually point inwards over there. And so if you can, what I'd suggest before you put the weight on it, you try to bring the knee around so it is in line, going to be in line with the toes as you come forward on the weight. Now that might be a bit extra work. You might need to really tuck your arch up physically with muscle work there. Come down the outside border of your foot with your weight. Kind of very handy exercise as well in itself to do. Strengthen up that arch, strengthen up the control around the ankle and the muscles there, and in that position you'll get some strengthening up of quads and your hamstrings. And you'll notice the back leg here is also still flat on the floor and the knee is straight. So again, I'm going to turn sideways so you can see what is happening now. So we've got that knee bent, knee over toes, back knee is more or less straight. You don't again want to make anything locked back because you lose control once you lock everything. Going back to the balance exercise, what you can now do is just come off at the back foot a little so that you're still balancing with the forefoot, your toes on the ground. So again, I've got 3/4, maybe more of my body weight on the front and only 1/4 or less on the back. And you'll feel that that's not too difficult to do. And so if you hold that for 10 seconds, you're getting the benefit of the muscle control at the front, but most of it has to work the balance at the front. And you can just swap over after 10 seconds to the other leg, get that one set up, come up off the back foot and hold for 10 seconds. Now, there is a dynamic aspect to this exercise. The dynamic aspects are that you can change them more quickly. So in the initial exercise, there was certain dynamicness. If we could hold the weight for 10 seconds, or we could simply move it back and forward. Now, because you're going faster when you're just moving back and forward, there's a great deal more momentum happening in your body. If you're well trained and you can do things like this, you won't even notice how much your body is just nice and lightly touching up in the muscular system to keep you doing this. But if you haven't done a lot of exercise for a number of years, and maybe you're older and your muscles are not as great as they once used to be, you might find that this is really tipping you and maybe potentially tipping you off balance. So you need to be very cautious about how quickly you do anything depending on your own capacity. So keep it all at the lower end of difficulty for you when you're testing these exercises out. Dynamically doing this, the other one from the side is one foot in front of the other, lunging forward and you're off. And you can just step. It's just like a step. Okay, you go lunge, step, up. Lunge, step, up. Coming back. But you can do that as slow as you need to. You can do it slowly like this. Great. Well, that's all for today. Thank you.